My parents forced me to fund my sister's wedding while I struggled financially, so I walked away and reclaimed everything they tried to control. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the responsible one in my family. That's not a compliment. It's a lifelong sentence dressed up as praise. My parents raised me on the idea that duty equals love, that good sons don't complain, and that family comes before everything, even themselves. So, I learned early that my feelings were secondary to everyone else's needs. After college, while most of my friends were figuring out life, I was juggling two jobs, one full-time in IT and another delivering groceries at night. Every paycheck had a name on it: my parents' bills, their medical costs, or helping Lily get on her feet. Lily, my younger sister, was always the family's golden child, carefree, adored, and untouched by consequence. When she failed classes, my parents laughed it off. She's still finding herself. When I worked overtime, they said, "You're the strong one, you can handle it." I told myself it was okay, that this was my role. But sometimes, when I sat alone in my small apartment eating instant noodles, I wondered if anyone ever thought about me. My parents never asked how I was holding up. Lily never thanked me for covering her car insurance or her rent, just this once. To them, I was dependable, reliable, the background noise of their lives. I remember one night when Mom called and said, "You're such a blessing, sweetheart. I don't know what we'd do without you." Her words should have warmed me, but instead, they stung. Because what she really meant was, "We'll always need you, and you'll never say no." I hung up, stared at my empty wallet, and for the first time, felt something I'd never let myself feel before: resentment. It started small, little favors that slowly became obligations. My mom would call and say, "Honey, your dad's car needs a new battery. You can cover it, right?" Or my dad would text, "Electric bill's due. I'll pay you back next month." Except next month never came. It was always me, reaching into a thinning wallet, convincing myself it was fine because they were my parents. Rent became tighter. I canceled my gym membership, sold my gaming console, and stopped eating out altogether. Meanwhile, Lily was living at home rent-free, posting pictures of brunches, weekend getaways, and new outfits. Sometimes I'd scroll through her feed after a long shift and think, how does she do it? Then Mom would send me screenshots of Lily's posts, saying, "Isn't she beautiful? You should be proud of your sister." Proud? I was barely surviving. When I finally hinted that I needed to save for myself, Mom's tone changed. "We raised you, didn't we? You wouldn't even have that job if it weren't for us." And just like that, any boundary I tried to build crumbled under guilt. Dad would chime in too. "It's just money, son. You can always make more." Easy words from a man who hadn't worked full-time in years. One evening, after wiring them another $400 for groceries, I checked my balance and saw I had just enough left for next month's rent. Barely. My stomach twisted with dread. But before I could process it, another message came from Mom. "Oh, and your sister's birthday's next week. Don't forget to send her something nice." I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were shaking, not from anger, but exhaustion. Emotional, mental, financial. I didn't know it yet, but that moment marked the beginning of my breaking point. It was a Sunday afternoon when my parents called, voices brimming with excitement. "Guess what?" Mom squealed before I could even say hello. "Your sister's getting married." For a second, I was genuinely happy. Lily had always been the wild one, and maybe settling down would give her some direction. But as the call went on, my stomach started to twist. Mom talked about a massive venue, custom floral arrangements, a designer dress, all the trappings of a wedding far beyond their means. Dad chuckled and said, "It'll be a family celebration. Everyone's pitching in." I congratulated Lily later that night, trying to sound sincere. She giggled through the phone, her voice airy and self-satisfied. "Don't worry. Mom said you'll handle most of the costs. You're the responsible one, remember?" She said it like it was already decided, like my financial servitude was some family tradition. I froze. "Wait, what? Why would I pay for your wedding?" "Oh, come on," she sighed, as if I was being unreasonable. "You make good money. Mom says it's only fair since you're single and don't have the same expenses." I wanted to scream. Instead, I heard my father's voice in the background. "You'll do it, son. It's your sister's big day. Family first." Family first. That phrase had become my leash. I didn't agree, not exactly. I just went quiet, like I always did. Because arguing meant guilt trips, cold shoulders, and accusations of being ungrateful. I told myself it would just be a contribution, maybe some help with the venue deposit. But deep down, I already knew the truth. This wouldn't stop at some help. When I hung up that night, I sat in the dark, my phone heavy in my hand. A sick feeling crept into my chest, the kind you get when you realize you're about to be used all over again. The weeks after Lily's engagement felt like a slow suffocation. Every call from my parents carried a new, urgent request. "Honey, can you cover the catering deposit?" Mom would ask sweetly. "We'll pay you back after the wedding. Promise." A few days later, Dad texted, "The photographer's asking for an advance. Just put it on your card. We'll settle it later." Of course, later never came. At first, I tried reasoning with them. "Mom, I can't afford all this. I'm already behind on rent." She went silent for a moment before sighing dramatically. "After all we've done for you, we didn't raise you to be selfish." That word, selfish, hit like a knife. I'd heard it my whole life whenever I dared to say no. When I called Lily to ask if she could maybe tone things down, she laughed. "You're being so dramatic. It's my wedding, not some courthouse signing." Then, with a sneer I could practically hear through the phone, she added, "You can't take it with you when you die, you know." I hung up without responding, my chest tight with rage and shame. I wasn't just paying for a wedding. I was buying their approval, one swipe credit card at a time. My coworkers noticed the change in me. I'd stare blankly at my screen, stress eating away at focus and sleep. My manager even pulled me aside once, saying I looked burned out. He had no idea I was funding someone else's fairy tale while living off instant noodles. The final straw came when Mom called one night, voice sharp and accusing. "Your sister said you hesitated about paying the decorator. Are you backing out now? Do you want to ruin her big day?" I felt something inside me snap, a quiet, exhausted fury. "No, Mom," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "I'm just tired of pretending this is love." By the time the wedding was 3 months away, I was thousands of dollars deep. Deposits for the venue, catering, decorations, the band. Every time I tried to calculate how much I'd spent, I'd feel sick. It wasn't just my savings anymore. It was my credit cards, my emergency fund, even the little I'd set aside for a vacation I hadn't taken in years. Then one night, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off some documents. Lily and her fiancé, Mark, were in the living room with my mom, laughing over wedding catalogs. Lily's voice cut through the air like a knife. "I'm thinking of upgrading to the Vera gown. It's only an extra $2,000. Totally worth it for the photos." My mom nodded approvingly. "Your brother can handle it. He's got a good job." I froze in the doorway. "Wait, what? I never agreed to that." The room fell silent. Lily rolled her eyes. "You're seriously going to make a scene over this? You're being stingy, as usual." My father looked up from his chair, his tone flat and final. "It's your sister's once-in-a-lifetime event, son. You can afford it." Something inside me cracked. My pulse thundered in my ears, and I said, "I've been paying for everything while you all treat me like an ATM. I'm done." Mom gasped. "How dare you talk to us that way after everything we've done for you?" "Everything they've done for me?" I almost laughed. I walked out before the words could turn uglier. Driving home, I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. For years, I had justified their behavior as love, but that night, the illusion shattered. I didn't know it yet, but that confrontation was only the beginning, because what came next would make all of this feel like a warm-up. A week after that confrontation, I got a call from my bank. The woman on the line spoke in that calm, professional tone people use when they're about to ruin your day. "Mr. Davis, we're just confirming that the personal loan under your name is still active. Payments are overdue." My heart sank. "Loan? What loan?" She listed the amount, $25,000. My brain stuttered. I'd never taken out anything close to that. I asked for details, and she read off the application address, my parents' home. I remember sitting there, phone to my ear, staring into nothing. The air felt heavy, unreal. When I hung up, I drove straight to their house. Lily was gone, but both my parents were at the table, sipping tea like it was any other day. I dropped the printed statement in front of them. "Care to explain this?" Dad didn't even flinch. "We needed to cover the rest of the wedding costs. You were going to help anyway." My jaw tightened. "So, you forged my signature?" Mom sighed, as if I were the problem. "You'll pay it off eventually. It's for your sister's happiness. We'll make it up to you after the wedding. I laughed, but it wasn't amusement. It was disbelief. Make it up to me? You stole my identity. Dad's voice turned cold. Watch your tone. Don't you dare accuse your mother of something so dramatic. Your family. You'll handle it. That word again. Family. It had become their weapon of choice. I walked out without another word. The sky was gray, the air thick before rain, and I remember thinking, this is what betrayal feels like. Not screaming, not violence, just quiet, calculated entitlement. By the time I got home, the first debt collector had already left a voicemail. My world, everything I'd built, was beginning to collapse, and it was my own family holding the match. The days after discovering the forged loan blurred together like static. Every morning, I woke up to new emails, overdue notices, payment reminders, and calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I stopped answering the phone entirely. My credit score tanked, my savings were gone, and every swipe of my card felt like playing Russian roulette. When I confronted my parents again, hoping for even a shred of remorse, all I got was gaslighting. Mom's voice was icy. You're overreacting. It's just temporary. Once the wedding's over, things will calm down. Calm down, I shot back. You used my name to take out your loan. She snapped. You're so dramatic, just like your father's brother. He cut us off too, and look how miserable he is. Lily texted me later that night. You're ruining the wedding vibe with all this negativity. Just chill and deal with it. Deal with it. As if 25 grand of debt and betrayal were just an inconvenience. Sleep became a stranger. My mind raced with anger, shame, and exhaustion. I'd stare at the ceiling, trying to make sense of how my own family could destroy me so casually. At work, my boss pulled me aside, said I looked like hell, that my performance was slipping. He was right. I couldn't focus on coding when my entire life was unraveling. Then came the eviction notice. My rent was 2 months overdue. I sat on the floor surrounded by unopened bills, the weight of everything crushing me. For years, I had carried them all. Their needs, their guilt, their chaos. But now, I couldn't even carry myself. I thought about calling them, begging for help, but the truth hit me like a knife. There was no help. There never had been. Hitting rock bottom wasn't some cinematic collapse. It was quiet. It was me sitting on the floor of my nearly empty apartment, surrounded by silence and unpaid bills, realizing no one was coming to save me. My parents had stopped calling after I stopped sending money. Lily blocked me on social media. It was as if I'd never existed, except as a wallet that finally ran dry. For the first time in years, I didn't owe anyone anything. Not money, not explanations, just pain. And somehow, that emptiness felt freeing. I took a few days off work and forced myself to face the damage. I called the bank, explained the identity theft, and began the brutal process of disputing the loan. The woman on the line sounded sympathetic, but not surprised. It happens more often than you'd think, she said softly. That sentence haunted me. I met with a financial advisor who helped me set up a plan. Every step forward felt microscopic, but it was movement. I sold what little I could, downsized to a studio, and started picking up freelance projects after hours. Slowly, painfully, I began to breathe again. Weeks turned into months. I stopped checking my family's updates, stopped replaying every argument in my head. Instead, I learned to sit with the silence, to let it become something peaceful rather than punishing. One night, I walked home after work, the city lights reflecting on wet pavement. The air was cold, crisp, the kind that clears your mind. For the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped. I didn't feel owned. I felt mine. That night, I deleted the last text thread from my mother. No dramatic speech, no closure, just silence, the kind that means freedom. The day of Lily's wedding came and went without me. I didn't plan it that way. I just couldn't bring myself to go. The thought of standing there, smiling while they paraded around in their designer clothes, paid for with my debt, made me physically sick. So I stayed home, blinds drawn, pretending it was just another Saturday. By noon, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Calls, texts, notifications stacking up like sirens. The first was from Mom. Where are you? Everyone's asking about you. Don't embarrass us. Then Lily. You're seriously not showing up after everything I did for you? Everything she did for me. The irony almost made me laugh. An hour later, Dad called. I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail. his voice low and furious. You've shamed this family. You'll regret this childish stunt. That word again, shame. It was always their favorite weapon. They were embarrassed not because of what they'd done to me, but because their perfect family image had a crack in it. That evening, while I ate takeout alone, Lily posted a wedding photo on Instagram. Her caption read, "The happiest day of my life, surrounded by love and support." I scrolled through the comments. All praise, all lies. No one saw the truth beneath the glitter and smiles. Part of me expected to feel guilt or regret for not being there. Instead, I felt light, free. For the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself. But that peace didn't last long. The next morning, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. The message was short. You need to come home. It's serious. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for sure. The price of breaking free wasn't over yet. When I finally called back, it was my uncle on the line, my dad's older brother. The same one my mother used to badmouth for being selfish because he'd gone no contact years ago. His voice was calm but heavy. Your parents are in trouble, he said. The loan defaulted. Collectors are after them. Their accounts are frozen. For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just listened to the hum of the line. My chest tightened, not with guilt, but disbelief. They brought this on themselves. Apparently, after the wedding, my parents tried taking out another small loan to cover the original payments, but without my credit history, they couldn't. Lily and her husband refused to help, claiming they were starting their new life. The irony was poetic. The very daughter they'd destroyed me to protect was now too busy posing for honeymoon photos to save them. A few days later, my dad called me for the first time in months. His voice trembled, not with humility, but entitlement wrapped in desperation. Son, you need to fix this. You're the only one who can. I took a long breath. No, Dad, you're the only one who did this. He paused, then said quietly, We're family. I almost laughed. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't ruin their own to protect the golden child. He tried again, his tone hardening. You're really going to let us suffer? And that's when I said it. The words I'd been too afraid to say my entire life. You already did. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from relief. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in years, not because everything was okay, but because, finally, their chaos wasn't my responsibility anymore. Pause. The power dynamic has shifted, but the final reckoning is still coming. In the months that followed, silence became my ally. No more guilt-laced phone calls, no more sudden emergencies demanding my paycheck. Just peace. My days were quieter, my mind clearer. I poured every ounce of energy into rebuilding what they'd taken, not just my finances, but my sense of self. I took extra projects, learned to budget properly, and even started therapy, something my parents would have called self-indulgent nonsense. My therapist asked me once, when was the last time you did something just for you? I couldn't answer, so I started small, cooking real meals again, buying a few plants, letting sunlight into my apartment. For the first time, my life didn't revolve around anyone's demands but mine. One afternoon, my uncle called again, not with bad news, but curiosity. You're really not going back? No, I said firmly. I can't save people who don't want to change. He chuckled softly. Took me a decade to learn that lesson. You learned it faster. His words stayed with me. Maybe breaking the cycle wasn't betrayal. Maybe it was evolution. I started to feel proud of myself. Not the shallow pride that comes from others' approval, but the quiet, internal kind. The kind born from survival. Friends began to notice the difference. I smiled more, laughed again, even started dating. My world felt bigger than it ever had when I was stuck under their thumb. Then, one evening, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Lily. Mom and Dad might lose the house. Please talk to them. You're the only one who can help. For a moment, the old instinct tugged at me, that urge to fix things, to rescue them. But then I remembered everything they'd taken, every sleepless night, every guilt trip. I put my phone down, exhaled, and whispered, Not this time. A few months later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. The return address made my stomach twist. A bank I knew all too well. Inside was a formal notice. Property foreclosure. Available for public auction. The address listed? My parents' house. The same house I'd grown up in. The same one they'd leveraged to fund Lily's wedding. and their lifestyle of denial. For a long time, I just stared at the letter. My first instinct was sadness, not because I pitied them, but because this house had once meant something sacred. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, scraped knees, and family dinners that used to feel warm before they turned cold with obligation. But that nostalgia faded as reality settled in. This wasn't my home anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. Still, I couldn't shake the thought. That house represented everything they'd tried to control. My money, my loyalty, my identity. Maybe it was time to take something back. A month later, I walked into that same bank, not as the broken son begging for mercy, but as a man with financial stability and hard-earned peace. The foreclosure auction was quiet. A few bidders, some realtors, a lawyer. I didn't say a word until the house came up. I raised my paddle once, twice. No one outbid me. When the gavel hit the table, it was over. The house was mine. I visited it once before moving forward. The rooms were empty, dust dancing in the light through cracked blinds. I walked through the kitchen, the living room, my old bedroom, every wall echoing with ghosts of who I used to be. And then I whispered, "I forgive you, but I'll never forget." As I stood at the front door, the air smelled of old wood and closure. I locked it behind me and walked away without looking back. Sometimes walking away isn't selfish, it's survival.